So the judge dismissed it and say there's no case here.
It's 1,000 words, and this video speaks, I mean, a million words. So it really is an impactful and powerful piece of evidence that's going to go against Lively, and that's why her deposition is not going to be pretty.
That if they find out any of the witnesses in this case, including the parties, including Blake Lively, if they find that she just was dishonest and lied on one single point of evidence in this case, in her testimony, the jury instruction says that they are allowed to discount her entire testimony. In other words, her testimony.
Blake Lively is in full meltdown mode after a judge's shocking decision, and honestly, she did this to herself.
And if you can show the jury that she's lied, juries don't like liars. Trials are about credibility.
For months, she carefully controlled the narrative, twisting public perception in her favor. But now, even the judge sees through her act. Lively had spent months strategically maneuvering through this lawsuit, playing the victim while painting Baldoni as the villain.
And yeah, anyways, bottom line here is that she wants different rules for her than she wants for Baldoni and his team, which I don't think the judge will agree with, because that's not fair.
Trials are about the truth, and juries want the truth. And if you lie to them, they will hold it against you.
Every move was a calculated PR stunt, a carefully rehearsed performance meant to keep the public on her side. But in a twist no one saw coming, the judge's ruling shattered her illusion completely. The decision wasn't just a loss, it was humiliating. It didn't just weaken her case, it exposed the shaky foundation of her allegations, revealing cracks in the story she had so desperately tried to hold together. And just like that, the media pounced. Overnight, the conversation flipped. No longer was it poor Blake. Instead, the internet was ablaze with one burning question. What is she really hiding? Social media went into overdrive. News outlets scrambled to rewrite their headlines, and legal analysts tore apart every detail of the case.
And that's why her deposition is not going to be pretty. And if I were her attorney, I'd want to get out of this case before she has to sit for deposition, not just because it might be bad for the case, but PR-wise, it's not going to be good.
Interesting.
Some of her diehard fans tried to defend her, but the overwhelming public response was brutal. This wasn't just another celebrity scandal. This was a public reckoning, and Blake, she couldn't handle it.
Them to say over and over again what they think the video shows, and they're going to, every expert's going to skew it towards their view of the case. And then the penultimate question to the expert is, but you agree with me, the jury is able to determine for themselves what this video is showing.
The meltdown was instant. Sources close to her described her reaction as frantic, desperate, completely unraveling the poised, controlled image she had spent years perfecting. Livid and panicked, her
with me on that. And it essentially eviscerates the expert's testimony, because jurors are very bright, especially collectively. When they're all together, they all come from varied backgrounds. They're the smartest people in the room collectively, and they generally get the right result. So the experts here are going to be important, but ultimately this video is damning. And I think you're right to say, or I was right to say, this is some of the most damning evidence in this case.
PR team scrambled into full damage control mode, but there was no saving her now. Hollywood wasn't just watching, it was seeing through her. This wasn't just a legal defeat, it was a turning point. The Blake Lively the world thought.
That's part of the PR battle. From a legal perspective, there would be no reason to put a statement by an expert in your complaint. It won't be shown to the jury. When you do go to trial, each side is going to have experts that they hire. Everybody has hired experts, and really experts are just hired guns.
They knew she might not exist at all. The narrative wasn't just shifting, it was collapsing around her. For years, Blake Lively had been Hollywood's golden girl, the effortlessly charming, sophisticated actress who always seemed in control. But now the mask was slipping. The world wasn't seeing a star anymore. They were seeing a master manipulator who had spent years pulling the strings to protect her power, and the number
drafted, because it's pointless. This is only for public consumption.
Right.
And it's only to try to take back the narrative that Baldoni's team has done a very good job of. And perhaps the reason they've done such a good job on the Baldoni's team is because they have more truth on their side than perhaps Blake Lively does.
They don't lie. The moment the judge's ruling dropped, her empire started crumbling. Her once loyal fan base was jumping ship at record-breaking speed.
Now both sides are under strict orders to kill each other, and that's what's happening. Both sides are trying to kill each other, and right now Baldoni's team is winning hands down. Public opinion is completely behind him. You've got even conservative bloggers. Candace Owens comes to mind, Meghan McCain. These are very conservative people, and they are completely behind Baldoni and his team and what's happening here. Blake.
In just a few months, she had lost hundreds of thousands of followers, an exodus so massive even industry insiders were stunned. And with every new lawsuit update, that number just kept growing. At first, her defenders tried to spin it as a temporary setback. But let's be real, this wasn't just a rough patch. This was Hollywood turning against her. Blake Lively wasn't just losing popularity, she was becoming one of the most disliked figures in the industry. And while she was watching her influence slip away, Baldoni
and his team and what's happening here. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, they need to listen to their lawyers, and they need to resolve this case if possible.
He was experiencing the exact opposite. His following was skyrocketing. People who once dismissed his side of the story were taking a second look. Maybe he had been telling the truth all along, and now the public was starting to believe him. The contrast couldn't be more brutal. While Blake was sinking, Baldoni was rising. But the real nightmare wasn't just happening online. It was happening inside Hollywood itself. Directors, producers, executives, the same power players who once rushed to work with her were backing away fast. And here's the thing. Hollywood doesn't care about morality. It doesn't care who's right or wrong. What Hollywood cares about is money, reputation, and power. And right now, Blake Lively was bad for business. No studio wants to take a risk on an actress whose public image is in free fall. No director wants to cast someone who generates more scandals than success. And most importantly, no one wants to deal with the kind of control freak behavior Blake has become infamous for. Because let's not forget, this isn't just about the lawsuit. For years, there had been whispers stories of how she hijacked projects, overruled directors, forced script changes, and made sure that no matter what, she was always the center of attention. She had spent years crafting an image of effortless elegance, when in reality she was micromanaging everything behind the scenes to ensure she always had the upper hand, and until now she got away with it. But this lawsuit, it shattered the illusion.
That this Shane guy wasn't terminated because of his views, but if the judge couldn't find anything there, I find it a little suspicious. So a source is talking on behalf of this Shane guy, saying that about Justin, that he always...
And now Hollywood is seeing the truth. This isn't just a court battle anymore. This is a reckoning, Blake. Lively isn't just fighting for a legal win. She's fighting for her career, her reputation, and whatever remains of the empire she built. And at this rate, if Blake Lively thought hiring a crisis PR specialist would save her, she was dead wrong.
Of the New York Times have opted to use a former top guy at the CIA for PR. So what is he doing for them exactly? Okay. Well, the Variety article goes on to tell us that Nick Shapiro, the former CIA agent, launched a crisis PR firm called 10th Avenue Consulting back in 2015 after a very long tenure in the federal government. Now, in case you're wondering,
if she believed showing up at film festivals and pretending everything was fine would help, she was even more wrong. And if she assumed that Hollywood would continue to protect her despite the chaos unfolding, she was delusional. This judge's ruling didn't just hurt her case. It was the final nail in the coffin of an already crumbling career. So now the real question is, how much worse can it get? Because if this downward spiral continues, we might just be witnessing one of the most brutal downfalls Hollywood has seen in years. And no amount of forced smiles or red carpet appearances can change that. And then just when people thought it couldn't get worse, it did the South by Southwest disaster on March 9th, 2025. Blake Lively walked straight into the storm, with a high-profile lawsuit against Justin Baldoni turning into a PR nightmare. Her credibility in shreds and the media tearing her reputation apart, most assumed she'd lay low, maybe even skip the event altogether. But Blake had other...
Blake, what does it mean to be back with Anna?
Oh, it's the best. I'm so happy.
Plans. Instead of retreating, she stepped right into the spotlight, determined to show the world that she was still in control. It wasn't just a public appearance, it was a statement. But that statement backfired spectacularly. From the moment she stepped onto the red carpet, the atmosphere was tense. Normally, these events are filled with excitement, flashing cameras and celebration. But this time, it felt like something else entirely. Reporters were rolling their cameras, fans were watching, industry insiders were whispering. But this wasn't just another film festival. This was Blake Lively desperately trying to prove that nothing was wrong. She posed for photos. She smiled for the cameras. She even made an effort to engage with fans, but everyone could see it. The effortless charm, gone. The confidence, forced. The energy, uncomfortable. She was trying way too hard, and no matter how much she pretended, the cracks were starting to show. The moment. That turned the night into a spectacle, and then it happened. Blake made her way through the red carpet, past the flashing cameras and carefully planned interactions. A protester broke through the polished facade. They held up a massive sign that read "Justice for Justin Baldoni." Blake lied. For a split second, everything stopped. The protester, later identified as YouTuber and social commentator, Colonel CTS, stood just off to the side, making it clear that not everyone in attendance was there to celebrate.
Oh my God. People commented and said, "Ooh, she hates her. Girl couldn't fake it. Oh, you know," are the exact words I say when someone asks me how I am and I am barely hanging on. "Oh, you know," is the new "here, damn."
The message was impossible to ignore. Blake's smile faltered. Security rushed in. Camera shutters clicked like wildfire. The tension in the air exploded. At that moment, it wasn't just about a red carpet event. It was about a Hollywood star who had lost control of the narrative, and the whole world was watching her downfall unfold. Live, a protester showing up at a high-profile event was embarrassing enough, but the way Blake Lively reacted turned it into a full-blown disaster. Instead of ignoring it or handling it with grace, Blake looked visibly shaken. It lasted only a second, but in that moment her mask slipped. The cameras caught everything, and within minutes the footage was everywhere.
Ask you, how do you feel like how does it feel like the movie's being impacted kind of by everything happening around going on in the world?
Why, what happened? I did ayahuasca and the last year of my life is just gone, but I've heard the movie's amazing.
Every major entertainment outlet, whether it was TMZ, Variety, or the Daily Mail, was analyzing her body language expressions and interactions. And then came the brutal headlines. Blake Lively struggles to save face. Amid scandal, protester calls out, Blake Lively on red carpet, Hollywood's darling no more. Lively faces public backlash. But it wasn't just the media attack. Even her own co-stars were distancing themselves. Anna. Kendrick was also at the event, and if anyone expected them to put on a united front, they were dead wrong. When asked about working with Blake, again Anna's response was short and cold. "Oh, you know." That was it. No excitement, no warmth, just a quick, distant answer before immediately changing the topic.
Like, what does it mean to be back with Anna?
Oh, it's the best. I'm so happy.
The internet noticed. That's what you say when you're trying to hide the real story. "Oh, you know" is the new "I'd rather not say." The clip went instantly viral, racking up millions of views across platforms, and it wasn't just the words. Anna's body language spoke louder.
Comments went crazy.
It means to be working with Blake again.
Oh, we're talking about you all day.
Oh my God.
During interviews, she stood far away from Blake. During group photos, she positioned herself next to Henry Golding. Not Blake, when Blake was speaking. Anna's face was blank. No smile, no forced enthusiasm, nothing. Then came the final nail in the coffin, when Variety asked her, "Has the lawsuit surrounding Blake affected the movie's release?" Anna shut it down instantly. Why? "What happened?" she said, pretending not to know before ending the conversation completely. The internet exploded again. Blake Lively is watching Hollywood turn against her. And at this rate, this might just be the beginning. It wasn't just what Anna Kendrick said. It was how she said it, the dismissiveness, the avoidance. The way she made it crystal clear that she wanted no part of Blake's ongoing disaster. Fans noticed immediately, taking it as confirmation that Anna wanted nothing to do with her co-star beyond the bare minimum required by contract, and she wasn't the only one. Even Henry Golding, who had remained professional throughout the press tour, couldn't completely hide the awkwardness. When asked about reuniting with Blake and Anna, he started off with the usual, Scripted answer, it's the best. But then, almost as an afterthought, he added, what could go wrong? The pause. The nervous laugh, it was enough to send social media into another frenzy. It was clear that no one, not even the most media-trained actors, could completely ignore the tension. And that tension wasn't just affecting the press, tour, it was affecting the movie itself. Normally, a sequel to a successful film like A Simple Favor would generate massive excitement, especially with the original cast returning, but instead of focusing on the movie, the entire conversation was about the drama between Blake and Anna, every interview, every headline, every viral clip, all about the scandal, not the film, and that's exactly why Amazon is panicking, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Studio executives are watching closely, concerned that the negative press surrounding Blake is tanking the movie's promotion. And so far, it's not looking good. Instead of building anticipation, the movie is creating controversy. Instead of drawing audiences in, it's making people question whether they even want to support it. And if things continue at this rate, this might just be one of Hollywood's most public box office disasters in years. Blake Lively's return should have been a triumphant moment, but instead it's turning into yet another disaster. Everything around her seems to be falling apart, and now the biggest question isn't whether her career will survive this lawsuit. It's whether A Simple Favor 2 will survive the Blake Lively backlash. If South by Southwest was any indication, the public has already made up its mind. For the first time in her career, Blake isn't the one controlling the narrative.
I don't trust him, never been a fan. But that's besides the point. He's right there. He's absolutely right there. They are trying to keep some evidence out of the public eye.
The legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has escalated into a multifaceted war of allegations, sexual harassment, defamation, and carefully orchestrated PR strategies. This isn't just a courtroom dispute anymore.
Completely behind Baldoni and his team and what's happening here. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, they need to listen to their lawyers. And
it's a fight for public perception, and both sides are using every tool at their disposal to sway the narrative. Blake Lively's approach has been aggressive. Her legal team has pushed for strict confidentiality measures, citing privacy concerns and potential reputational. Blake Lively is out
of the New York Times have opted to use a former top guy at the CIA for PR. So what is he doing for them exactly, okay? Well, the Variety article goes on to tell us that Nick Shapiro, the former CIA agent, launched a crisis PR firm called 10th Avenue Consulting back in 2015 after a very long tenure in the federal government. Now, in case you're wondering,
damage. It's a clear attempt to control the flow of information before it can cause further harm, but Baldoni isn't playing by those rules. Instead of staying quiet, he launched a website, The Lawsuit Info, where he laid out his version of events, including a timeline of everything that happened. It's a calculated move designed to counteract negative press and offer his own transparent account of the allegations.
Race, and she's trying to push away, is what they're trying to create in your mind with how they state it. And then you watch the video and you're like, well, I'm not seeing any of that. So yeah, I think you said picture speaks 1,000 words and this video speaks, I mean, 1,000,000 words. So it really is an impactful and powerful piece of evidence that's going to go against Lively. And that's why her deposition is not going to be pretty.
The fallout from this legal war has already begun. Blake Lively's career now faces intense media scrutiny, and Hollywood's perception of her role in this lawsuit could affect her future casting opportunities. Whether she is seen as a victim seeking justice or a participant in a messy legal fight will determine what happens next. For Baldoni, the consequences were immediate.
How does that make them look?
Yeah, it doesn't make them look good. And if you look at the way that they changed it, really what they did is they said, well, yes, all of that happened, but when Baldoni was in that scene dancing, he wasn't in character. And she was being forced to act as though she loved him, which is, in my mind, just acting. And so rather than saying that these horrible things happened, now they're saying, well, no, yeah, but she didn't want that. And
on December 21st, 2020, WME Talent Agency dropped him following Lively's initial complaint. He also had his Voices of Solidarity award rescinded by Vital Voices. With these setbacks, it's clear the industry is already distancing itself from him. But this case isn't just about two Hollywood stars. It exposes the challenges of handling misconduct allegations, the power of PR in shaping public perception, and the delicate balance between justice and reputation. And with neither side backing down, this battle is far from over. The question is, who will come out on top?